Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the virtual open day for the MA History of Art program at the Courtauld Institute of Art. My name is Dr. Maria Mileva, and I'm a senior lecturer in modern and contemporary art at the Courtauld. And today I'm speaking to you in my role as head of program. So, what to expect over the next hour? I'm going to speak to you for about 20 minutes and go over the content and structure of the program, the different modules that you will be taking. I will also focus on the different skills that you will be gaining from the study of MA History of Art at the Courtauld, as well as a quick overview of the different careers that our graduates have gone on to do at the end of the program. I will then pass over to my colleague Anna Aplin, who has joined me to talk to you about the application process and funding. And she will talk to you for about 10 minutes. And afterwards, there will be an opportunity to ask us questions. And I'd like to invite you to write your questions in the Q&A function of the Zoom meeting. And at the end, I will stop sharing my slides and I will read the questions out loud. I will either group them or read them individually, and Anna and I will be able to address those questions. And this is also I want to also remind you that the meeting is being recorded and you will be emailed the recording later on today with other relevant material. So without further ado, I will go to my first slide. So the MA History of Art program is our biggest kind of flagship program at the Courtauld. Our intake per year is 250 students, and that's a substantial part of our student cohort overall. So at the Courtauld, we have 700 students, roughly in any one year, from BA and MA, all the different MA programs, as well as PhD students. And when applying to the Courtauld, you will be applying for a special option, which is ordinarily taught in groups of 10 to 12. So whilst you are part of a cohort of 250 students and part of this kind of community of a single subject institution at the Courtauld, you're also going to be taught in small groups of 10 to 12 students in approximately there are 21 special options to choose from across different media, periods, and geographies. And something else to point out, which is very important, is that it is a 9-month program. So ordinarily, you will start at the end of September with Welcome Week and then week 1, and you will finish teaching and submission of your dissertation will happen at the end of teaching, and the submission of your dissertation will happen in May, and then you will the graduation is normally in June or July. So this gives you an opportunity to go on to further study or stay in UK if you're coming from abroad. There is an opportunity to apply for a extension to your visa for 18 months if you are applying for a visa to study in UK. So there's lots of different things for you to do after the 9-month program. So why MA History of Art at the Courtauld, and what are its distinct features? It is one of the largest graduate art history programs anywhere in the world, offering unrivaled combination of breadth and depth. And the course provides the best research-led teaching in a unique single subject setting. And that's something that I've already mentioned, that you become part of a Courtauld community, which is relatively small. We teach history of art, conservation, also curation and art and business at the Courtauld. But they absolutely key thing is that you are also kind of become a specialist within your field, within that context. The MA will equip students with a deep knowledge and understanding of a specialist field in art history. And I think this is the main kind of defining and distinction of the our MA History of Art program at the Courtauld. Um, because over the 2 semesters in the academic year, you're working together with your special option tutor to develop a very close understanding and deep knowledge in a specific period or media. Or a specific region of our history. So when graduating, you are not only a specialist, you're not only an art historian, but you're also a specialist in the field of art history in a particular area. So our program is taught in a combination of lecture and seminar style teaching with regular site visits in London, in UK and also beyond, that are covered by travel grants. And for example, there are study trips that might take place either in UK or further afield. And the students, as soon as they enroll, apply for a travel grant, which is part of the program. And you can then start booking your trips. So, for example, I've just come back from a study trip with my students that took place in Berlin and Warsaw, and other groups go to Florence and Paris and other locations. And the travel grant covers all your expenses for that trip. You also gain access to gallery collections as teaching resources. So we plan trips as kind of a part of your teaching to, for example, the prints and drawings collection at the V&A, or of course at the Courtauld Gallery, which gives you kind of an unrivaled access to your own university gallery when you become a student here. Another distinctive feature is that you have ongoing career support with mentoring opportunities and an absolutely, I think, outstanding alumni network, not only in UK, but internationally. And there are different ways to engage with that. So the teaching and program structure. The special options are taught across 2 semesters, and they draw on the expertise of your special option tutor, who will be a kind of leading scholar and eminent specialist in the field. And our faculty consists of around 40 people, which is what makes this both kind of a small institution, single subject institutions, also the largest art history department in the world. And so in your special option groups, which are normally taught in groups of 10 to 12 students, you will work together with the special option tutor on kind of the latest developments in that particular area of art history. And one of, I think, the nicest thing about both teaching on the program, this is for myself and for students, is that it is really at the level of MA, the classroom is non-hierarchical, and everyone takes part in developing new ideas, in engaging with innovative thinking, and really developing the fields not only through discussions with your fellow students and the tutor, but also in your essays that you submit at the end of the semester one and semester two, but also in your presentations and on the study trip. And this is kind of very exciting work that happens in the context of the special option. I will also point later on that there are three special options that are group taught, and that is where three special options come together in a cluster around one particular idea or approach or a common concern. And they are taught, the three tutors teach together in semester one in a group of, with a group of 30 students. And then in semester two, you split into the three special option strands where again you'll be in roughly groups of 10 students. Something else to say is you will receive feedback and tutorials from your special option tutor to help you work on your assessments. And ordinarily, your special option tutor will be your dissertation supervisor as well. Your special option tutor is also your personal tutor and can provide not only references and other career advice and support further to our career service, which is a kind of a separate service that you will have access to. So alongside the special option, there are two modules which are group taught and they complement the special option. So the first module is critical debates, and it is taught in semester one in the autumn. And this is an exciting module where you will, together with your special option, you join other special options into strands and groups. There are five strands which are grouped around a particular theme or a problem, theoretical or methodological concern. And these are also taught alongside MA Curating and MA Contemporary Art and the Moving Image programs. So this is really an opportunity for you to not only engage in critical debates, theoretical approaches, which will help you write your dissertation and your essays, but also meet new friends and create a bigger and stronger network of colleagues and friends at the end of your program here. So, for example, these five strands in the critical debates that are offered now, one of them is called the Middle Ages. Another one is called Migrations. And these examine, for example, the migrations one is the one that I teach on, and it examines the migration of ideas, objects, people, and people since the 19th century. And the way that the critical debates is taught is there is a lecture and a seminar once a week across 8 weeks. And you come together to listen to the lecture. There's probably roughly six, I think, special options in the lecture together. And then you split into groups for the seminar discussion straight after the lecture. And I'll show you kind of the schedule in the next slide. Then the examining exhibition is another module that is group taught and in semester two, and it focuses on questions of display, curation, and exhibition. It is also group taught by members of faculty and follows the same principle where you meet for the lecture and then split off into the discussion. And the idea here is to prepare you to develop and submit a virtual exhibition, which is kind of an imaginary exhibition where you learn skills of formulating a visual argument, which is slightly different to writing an academic and scholarly essay. This is where you are thinking visually how to construct an idea, critical idea visually. You will learn how to pitch an exhibition. So you will write in your virtual exhibition submission, you write a proposal for an exhibition to kind of an imaginary, let's say, exhibitions committee. It could be at the Courtauld, in the V&A, or an imaginary gallery that you decide, or it could be a digital exhibition as one example. And then other components of this assessment include a wall text and a label and an exhibition catalog entry, as well as the layout for your display of around 30 objects. And all of these components are interrogated in the taught module by members of faculty who will speak about their own experiences of curating exhibitions, of pitching exhibitions, but also of thinking about exhibitions historically and how that impacts and allows us to reassess particular fields of art history, but also how exhibitions contribute to writing canonical narratives of art history. And then the final module is the dissertation and research skills. And this is taught over 2 semesters, and it culminates in the dissertation, which is a 10,000 word dissertation that you submit in May. And this is something that you work really throughout the year on, together with your special option tutor through one-to-one tutorials, but also it's primarily an independent project that you receive supervision for. And in order to help you with the independent project, you're also gaining skills through this module. So there are a number of briefing sessions, asynchronous lectures and workshops that you can, optional workshops that you can sign up for. And these optional workshops include, for example, oral histories and conducting oral history interviews. Then there is a special skills workshop on working with non-English language sources. There is also a workshop on referencing and Zotero and other referencing software. There is another skills workshop on working with inventories and with digital archives. And another one that is very popular is on visual analysis skills. And that will be useful for many people, whether you've come from an art history background or from a different background, and you want to brush up on your visual analysis skills, or you feel that you are new to art history. And that happens in semester 1. So these are the different assessments that you will be expected to submit, and that will kind of overall make up your final grade. So for the special option, you submit 2 4,000 word essays, one at the end of the autumn semester and one at the end of the spring semester. At the end of the autumn semester, you also submit a critical debates portfolio of short written exercises that are developed from the different lectures and discussions that you have as part of the course on critical debates. And the virtual exhibition assignment that I already discussed in spring. And finally, the 10,000 word dissertation. And here I've included a slide to give you an idea of what the structure will look like. So you see the different credits as well for each of the modules and how they are taught in seminars and off-site visits, the tutorials that you receive, and also the assessments. And you can see this later in the recording as well. These are the MA History of Art weighted averages. So kind of to give you an idea of visually, this kind of tripartite structure of the independent project of your dissertation, the special option, the two essays, and then the virtual exhibition and the critical debates. They are kind of the two complementary group top modules that you also take. Now, this is a screenshot of our website of those 21 special options that you will be selecting when you make the application. And I'm not going to go into each one of these because we'll need probably 21 hours to go over these. But I encourage you to read carefully the information on the special option page, but also look at the faculty profile page of who is teaching the module. And there might be also shorter videos from the faculty member who will be discussing the course. And you can also email the faculty and ask questions specifically if you have questions about the specific special option. And I just want to point out those three group options that I've mentioned before. And those ones are body and experience in Renaissance art, which is taught by 3 members of faculty in a group of 13 semester 1. The second one is Culture Wars, Art in China, Eastern Europe, and the former Soviet Union. And I teach on that one myself because I'm a specialist in Soviet and post-Soviet visual culture. And then the final one of the clustered special options is Empires of Art, Early Modern Asia, 1500 to 1900. So please explore all the special options. As you can see, there are so many of them, and they provide a variety of specialisms. And we can answer your questions about the application a bit later. So why study and why study now? This is a section which discusses a little bit the skills. So studying MA History of Art at the Courtauld provides you with invaluable expertise in art history, visual culture, and literary skills required for success in the art world. And that's kind of that specialism that you receive gives you access to many directions in the careers that you might want to take in the art world, but not only. MA History of Art offers a foundation for any career that requires a deep understanding of people and the human experience, from marketing and advertising to fashion and design. You will develop advanced research skills, visual literacy, and independent critical voice, as well as broad-ranging view and understanding of the careers available in the cultural and heritage sector. And expand your network and improve, kind of develop your professional skills. And here I've included just very few recent graduates with different careers from our MA History of Art alumni. So there is someone who's working as head of events at the Royal Academy of Arts, curator at the Barbican, and someone who's responsible for sales at Saatchi or the Malin Gallery. One of my former students is working as account executive at the PR agency Scott & Co. that is responsible for different art projects, senior digital producer in the South Bank Centre, a film researcher and screenwriter for the Crown series, and as well as a disputes lawyer. So many different professions, and you can explore those as well on our website. So final thing, this is my final slide. What to do now, how else to get involved. You can, if you haven't done so already, you can sign up for Vernon Square Campus Tour as well as the Courtauld Gallery Tour. And you can do that on our website. On our website, you will also see a little button, a function that says Ask a Student, where you can ask your question not only from us, but from current students who will be able to talk about their experience independent of us. Please also watch the Courtauld Institute overview, which you will receive together with this recording. And this is an overview about what the study, what studying at the Courtauld will be like, the different resources and support that we provide. And this is done by my colleague, Dr. Tom Nixon. And there will also be an admissions event for postgraduate taught admissions Q&A webinar on the 6th of January before the deadline on the 12th that Anna is going to talk about. But this is just a reminder that please formulate your questions, but also save some of the questions for this Q&A webinar. And remember that we will be shut over the Christmas break. There are some institutional closure days. So I think that is all from me, and now I'm going to pass over to Anna.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. My name's Anna. I work in the admissions team at the Courtauld, specifically looking at postgraduate admissions. So I'm going to be talking about the admissions process in general, and also kind of some more specific things about the MA History of Art, and then talk a little bit about scholarships and funding at the end. That's great. If I could get the next slide, that would be brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so to start with some key dates and some information on the fees. So as mentioned, the application deadline is on the 12th of January, but applications are now open, so you can apply from any point kind of now onwards. Please do note that the 12th of January is an equal consideration deadline. So if you have applied by the 12th of January, we will aim to issue outcomes and decisions from the 27th of February onwards. If you apply after the 12th of January, then applications will be assessed on a rolling basis and outcomes will be issued on a similar basis. So then moving on to fees. So for the 2026-27 academic year for the MA History of Art, our home fees are £16,275 and our overseas fees are £33,285. So that is for the next academic year. That's great. If we go to the next slide, that would be great. Perfect. Okay, so we can talk about the entry requirements. So if you have a UK qualification, whether you studied in the UK or you're from the UK, what we're looking for is a good 2-1 in your bachelor's degree. Typically in a humanities or social sciences subject, although that's not kind of a hard and fast rule. It will depend on your kind of overall sort of circumstances. And then if you have an overseas qualification, either if you're from somewhere overseas or if you just did your BA overseas, we're looking for a equivalent grade to a good 2-1. So a very common example would be from US applicants. We would be looking for a cumulative GPA of 3.3 or above. But I do just want to flag a kind of new website that we have on our kind of Courtauld website called International Entry Requirements, which is run by our international team. And it goes into a lot of detail on the different equivalences to that good 2-1 for different countries all around the world. So I'd really recommend, if you're not sure about your particular circumstances, to have a look there. And then if you had any further questions, you can get in touch with us and our international team, and we can talk about your particular circumstances. And then our last kind of entry requirement is English language. So if your first language is not English, we do need some evidence that you meet our kind of requirements. And so the two tests that we accept are IELTS and the Cambridge English test. But there are some other ways that you can meet that requirement. For example, if you have a UK BA, that would also usually meet that requirement. But we'd recommend, again, having a look at our website called English Language Requirements, and it goes into detail on the more kind of the more various ways that you can meet that entry requirement. And again, if you had any questions about your particular circumstances, you can get in touch with us and we can talk about it in a bit more detail. That's great. If we could get the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the individual documents that you need to include in your application, starting with the personal statement. So the personal statement has a 600-word limit, and it allows you to detail kind of why you'd like to study at the Courtauld in particular. You can talk about any previous study or projects, or maybe your BA dissertation if it's relevant, or any essays that you might have done in previous study, and any work experience that you might have that makes you a strong candidate for the programme. You can also talk about any key skills or interests that you have that are relevant to the programme and even your kind of specific special option that you're interested in. And then you can also talk about what makes you in particular stand out as a candidate for the programme. And then lastly, kind of any career aspirations that you have and how you think that studying with us will help you achieve them. As it says there, it's not prescriptive. You don't have to stick to it kind of word by word, line by line, but it should give you a good starting point to kind of build your own personal statement from. As you will find out when you come to apply, you can pick three special options that you're interested in. They're not ranked, so it's not kind of number one, number two, number three. It's kind of the three that you're interested in. But if there was one in particular out of the three that you pick that you're particularly interested in, then you can put that in your personal statement. So indicate the one that you kind of is your first choice. You don't have to do that, but you do have the opportunity to do that in your personal statement if you would like to express a particular interest. But that's great. If we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the next document is the written work sample. So for the MA History of Art, this would be a word limit of 3,000 to 5,000 words. Preferably, this would be a chapter from your BA dissertation in an art historical or just historical subject. Alternatively, if you haven't completed your BA dissertation, or if you maybe it's not in kind of one of those subjects and you think you have an essay that might be a better fit, you can submit an essay of suitable length, or even two essays that combined kind of come in below that word limit. The key thing, though, is that we're looking for written work samples that demonstrate your capacity for writing in academic English. So it's not necessarily an absolute requirement that it's in an art historical or historical subject. What we're looking at really is your kind of academic writing. So kind of whatever you think will best exemplify that. That's kind of what you should probably go for in terms of submitting it. But whatever you do submit, please do just give us some context on what we're looking at. So for example, this is an excerpt from chapter 2 of my third year BA dissertation, just so our reviewers know kind of what they're looking at. And then if your written sample is not in English, that's fine, but you will just need to provide an English translation, again, just so we know kind of what we're looking at. But that's great. If we could go to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so the other very important document is your academic transcript. So we do need official transcripts from all previous study, not just your BA, although if you just got your BA, that's completely fine. What we need is your final complete transcript. So we will need that at some point. If you haven't completed your degree yet, that's fine. We would need your interim transcript. And then if you were to secure an offer, it will be conditional on you providing your final overall transcript to meet that condition. One thing to flag, it might seem a little bit obvious, but please do just check that your transcript includes your final overall grade on it. Sometimes some kind of international transcripts don't always have that on there. So we do just ask that you check carefully if it's included, and if it's not, if you could request a letter from your institution that indicates your final overall grade. that would be really helpful and just makes things go a bit smoother. In terms of the format, we require electronic copies, so that can either be provided from your university, or if you've only got a physical hard copy, that's fine. You can send us a scan. That's as long as it's clear, that's acceptable as well. As I mentioned, if you haven't completed your degree, you can send us an in-progress transcript as up to date as possible from where you are when you're in your degree, from when you're applying. And again, similar to your written work, we do need an English translation of anything that's not in English. For the transcript, this does need to be a certified English translation. So if you think that will apply to you, it might be something to start thinking about now, because sometimes it can take a little while for certified translations to come through. So yeah, just something to keep on the radar. That's great. If I could get in the next slide, that would be great. Perfect. Okay, so then academic references. So we do ask that you make every effort to provide 2 academic referees, and ideally one of these would be your BA dissertation supervisor. However, we appreciate that's not always possible. Say, for example, if you left academia kind of a while ago. So in some cases, we can also accept a professional referee. We will say that they are expected to provide an assessment of your intellectual abilities and your potential to learn. So just have a kind of a good think about who might be kind of able to provide the best reference in your circumstance. Something to be aware of is that when you submit your application, an automatic reference request is sent to your referees. So you put in all of their details and it kind of automatically sends them an email requesting the reference. So we do ask that you let them know ahead of time that you will be kind of nominating them as a referee, so that they have time to prepare and kind of put everything together that they need so that they can then submit. This is kind of both for their benefit and also for yours, because, you know, if you can submit early, that's great, but a lot of people will kind of be submitting right up until the deadline. And kind of it's okay if your referees aren't in directly on the 12th of January, but it will get to a point, usually around kind of 5 working days or so after that deadline, where if we don't have your references, your application will be considered without them. And, you know, that can kind of weaken your application a little bit. So it is really in your best interest to kind of make sure that they know that they're going to get that request so they can submit it as soon as possible. We won't be chasing references, so it is really something that you'll need to kind of keep on top of. And again, it's something to think about now, really. But that's great. If you go to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. So then just the final kind of major points in terms of application documents. We do need all of your passports, whether that's a UK passport or overseas passport, or even both if you have kind of multiple passports. We just need clear scans of everything. And then a CV, that is a kind of required document for us. So any previous relevant study or work experience. It's a really good document kind of in supplement to your personal statement, kind of allows you to give all the relevant information to support your application. And we do just ask that you include dates and locations of anything that you've entered in there, just for more context. Seems obvious, but sometimes people miss it out, and just is helpful for us. And then any previous UK visas, if applicable to you. So say, for example, if you studied your BA in the UK and you have a student visa for that, we do ask that you send us a scan. And that's any UK visa that you have in the past, so that we have a full picture. But in terms of everything that I've been talking about, there is more information on our postgraduate application guidance and FAQ website. It goes into details on all of the documents and also answers a lot of the frequently asked questions. So I would really recommend having a look on that website. And then, of course, if you had anything that maybe wasn't touched on the website or any further questions, you can absolutely get in touch with us at PG Admissions. But definitely that should be your first port of call because it does really go into a lot of detail. But that's great. If I could get the next slide, that would be great. Perfect. Okay. So this is the last sort of major thing from me, but scholarships and funding. So the deadline to apply for all Courtauld linked funding is the 12th of January. So it's the same day as the application deadline. The main scholarships that are relevant for our the MA History of Art are the Courtauld New Voices MA Scholarship. So that is a widening participation scholarship of up to 6 awards, and it is around £15,500 each award, I believe. And as I mentioned, they're assessed on a widening participation set of criteria. So on the website, it goes into a lot of detail on what each of those criteria are. So I would recommend having a look there, having a real thorough read through. And if you think that you meet any of those criteria, you can submit an application, and the form is live on the website now. The next kind of group is the Courtauld Postgraduate Studies Scholarships. So there's various different kind of scholarships there with different eligibility criteria. So that might be area of study, particular special option, or even nationality of applicant. So again, I'd have a look there and see what you think is relevant to you. And then the Manton Scholarship, MA studies in British art and architecture. This is specific to not only the MA History of Art, but specific special options that touch on British art and architecture. So again, I would, if you are interested in one of the special options that is relevant for, have a look on the website just to make sure that you kind of fit that criteria, and then submit an application. And then just the last two things to just flag are UK loans and US loans. Those you would apply for via the relevant government, but we've got some information on the website that you can check to see if you're kind of eligible for that. And then the alumni loyalty scheme is if you've studied with us before, so you did your BA with us, it's a 10% discount on tuition fees. So you don't have to do anything, it's automatically applied, but it's good to know about ahead of time. And then the website that I've been mentioning is the postgraduate funding and scholarships website. So it goes into a lot more detail, all the criteria, all the different scholarships. So please do have a real thorough read of that. But again, get in touch if you have any questions. And then the last major thing I do just want to kind of touch on is that while we do have these scholarships kind of all available, and we encourage you to take a look, please do keep in mind that funding for postgraduate studies can be limited. That is with us, but also kind of across the country, globally, it is kind of a finite resource, and not everyone who applies will kind of secure that funding. We don't want to discourage you from applying, absolutely not, please do. But it's just something to kind of keep in mind and sort of manage expectations at this stage. And as it says there, most students will need to use different funding sources to cover all costs of studying. So even if you were to secure one of these scholarships, it may be the case that you also need to kind of look elsewhere to sort of supplement that to cover both tuition and living expenses. But yes, that is everything mostly from me. So I'm going to hand kind of the presentation back over, if that's okay, for the Q&A section. But there's just some general contact details on the screen whilst we go through your questions, so you know who to contact with relevant queries. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That's absolutely great. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen, but do take a note of these contacts, but these will also be available in the recording later. So program-specific queries are for me, and that's Maria Mileva. And then general application inquiries is PG admissions. International queries, we have 2 members of international team who will respond to you about questions of qualifications and visas, applying from abroad, and then fee queries as well. So let me stop sharing now, and then I will take the questions. Okay, so let's start. For the academic referees required for the application, are these strictly limited to professors, teaching assistants, or also potentially researchers one may have worked with or assisted? I think as Anna has already answered this to say that they can definitely be a kind of variation of professional experiences that you would have had, whether it's an employment, as long as they can speak to your intellectual abilities and skills. So that is what I would recommend. And okay. In the program, is there a chance to study the languages that are relevant to the special option? For instance, Italian for Renaissance, Ancient Greek for Byzantium? Very good question. So, languages is not a kind of compulsory part of the program. It's not something that we provide as part of the program. However, we encourage you to study language if you want to. You have to consider that this will have to be done alongside the MA, which is an intensive 9-month program. But what we do offer is we have a partnership with King's College London. And King's College London has a language school, a language centre, and they have many languages. And the Courtauld has a discount for those languages. So that is something I think it might be in our frequently asked questions, but if not, we'll add that information to it. So you can take a language, even though that's not part of the program, but there are different ways to do that, and we can provide advice. Um, and next question. What is a typical day like for an MA student? Are there classes daily? Also a very good question. For that, you could also ask a student through the function on the website to get kind of more informal feedback and answer about the experience. But in terms of contact hours, so what you would expect to have, I'm just calculating, is probably about 6 to 8 contact hours a week, and that's in teaching, in lectures and seminars. And there is also a lot of independent study that you're expected to do to prepare for seminars with the set readings, but also to work on your assignments. In terms of when the lectures and seminars take place, normally these would be grouped to 3 days a week. So you will be special option teaching, which will happen on one day, then your critical debates and the research skills and dissertation module. Whilst we try to stick to set days, some of the off-site visits might be ad hoc, but we will let you know as soon as we can. The special option tutor will let you know as soon as they can. And we also publish the timetable as soon as possible closer to the start of semester so that you can plan around it. And if that question was also directed in order to answer whether you can do a part-time work alongside the studies, is whilst I think it is definitely possible to work, and some students work one day a week or evenings. Please remember that the 9 month is an intensive MA, and you just need to be realistic about expectations. Although there will be some points of the academic year where there will be fewer contact hours. So, for example, in the after the Easter break, there will be fewer contact hours where you'll be working your dissertation. And sometimes it's nice to have some kind of structured work around that. Okay, next question. Which year will the courses switch to the Courtauld Gallery new location instead of Vernon Square? So I think you mean the Courtauld Institute Somerset House location. Anna, do you remember that?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it's kind of 20, I think it's 20, either 28, 29.
I
So it's
think
not
it's
really a
20.
while. Yeah, it wouldn't
Yeah,
be relevant for this cohort, I don't think.
yeah. So the Courtauld Gallery is in Somerset House, and some teaching does take place in the Courtauld Gallery in Somerset House. And there are different off-site visits, and sometimes teaching is booked in the seminars at Somerset House. But most of MA History of Art teaching is at Vernon Square, and I encourage you to visit that campus if you can. And the kind of redevelopment of our Somerset House Institute building has been just announced, and watch this space for a few more years, and it will happen in 28, 29. Is there a part-time option available? Unfortunately, there is no part-time option available for the MA History of Art program yet. So that is not something that we have done, but we are actively trying to work out options in the future. But at the moment, it is only full-time 9-month program. How can USA applications find non-loan based funding? Are there any 100% full funding opportunities that you know about? Um, Anna?
Yes. So it really depends. A lot of our scholarships that I kind of touched on briefly there are not necessarily specific to home students. A lot of them are open to international students as well. I would say that very few of them are kind of what you would consider full funding opportunities. There are a couple. For example, one of the ones that I mentioned is the Manton Scholarship. It's not necessarily full 100% full funding, but it does have one award for home fees and one award for overseas, where it covers full fees plus a stipend. That's just an example. But in terms of the other scholarships, a lot of them are open to overseas and therefore US students, but they're not necessarily all full fees. So I'd really recommend having a look at the website on each of them and seeing which ones you think you might be kind of eligible for, and kind of having a careful look in terms of the amounts there. But I will say there are a very small number of kind of full kind of funding opportunities.
Anna, whilst you're there, there's a couple more questions about the application. Will the application portal notify you when the references have been successfully submitted by your referees? Do you know that?
I don't believe they do. No, no. So it's something that you might just need to liaise with your referee kind of with. You can always reach out to us to ask to check because we can see on our end. It's more the case that if we haven't received it, we won't chase the referee directly. But you can always ask us if they submit it and we will let you know. And then you can kind of handle the communication with them directly.
Okay, thank you. There is a question about interviews and if there is an interview stage to the application, and there isn't. So normally the assessment is done only on the application. There is an admissions committee that will meet to assess your application, and there will, after you receive, if and after you receive an offer, you will then meet with your special option tutor online, which is a very good opportunity also to meet your special option tutor, hear more about the special option, meet the other offer holders. There was also a question about the written sample limit and if the word count includes footnotes. And just to say that normally the word count doesn't include footnotes, but it also can include footnotes. But in general, like for our submitted work, if you're submitting an assessed essay or dissertation, that doesn't include footnotes. So I wouldn't worry about that. There was also a question about I have a BA honors in English, but I'm currently taking a certificate course at Birkbeck in art history. I've only written 2 art history essays so far, and they amount to 3,000 words. Would that be better to use than a section of my dissertation for the written sample? Um, I only ask because I did very well in my English dissertation. Um, I mean, I think that including a section of your English dissertation is good. If you are very happy with that work, then that is absolutely fine. And many of our MA History of Art students apply from adjacent disciplines in anthropology, literature, history, and other social sciences subjects, or philosophy. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Another question, is it possible to apply after January? Anna?
Um, okay, so technically yes, potentially. As I mentioned, the 12th of January is what's called an equal consideration deadline. So we would really recommend applying by the 12th of January if you are able to, because that's kind of the sort of main deadline and also lines up with the scholarship application deadline. So if you were to apply after the 12th of January, you wouldn't really be able to be considered for any of our scholarships. So it's another thing to kind of consider there. Whether or not you would be considered after the 12th of January if you did apply late kind of will depend on a number of factors. So kind of what places are available, that sort of thing. So the answer is simply potentially yes, but it is very much recommended that you apply by that deadline if you want to be equally considered with all other applicants. I hope that answers the question completely.
Yeah, that sounds great. There was also a question about whether some special options are oversubscribed, and they are, and which is also one of the reasons why you want to apply for the equal consideration deadline. And this is also why we ask you to list at least three special options, as well as in the application, there's a section where you can select different special interests, whether it is in kind of the period you're interested in, or in the media you're interested in, or in kind of geographies that you're interested in, or approaches, which will also help us to understand your interests. And if you do not receive an offer for your preferred special option that you have indicated in your personal statement, you will be considered for the second two special options. And if you or if you apply for, let's say, a general application, so you don't list any special options, based on your CV, on your personal statement, and on your references, as well as your written sample, the admissions committee will pick a special option that is most suitable for you with your experience and skills. Okay, there is also a question about, does Courtauld have access to Chabad or Bloomsbury chaplaincy services? And I don't know about that. Anna, do you know?
I don't know specifically about that. What I do know is that through our relationship with Kings, we do have access to a lot of their
Oh, yeah.
services, which I believe includes chaplaincy, sorry, services. So everything that kind of King students have access to in that regard of resources, our students also have access to, I believe, and also kind of the wider University of London as well, because we're kind of part of the University of London umbrella. So it's sort of three layers of services that you have access to.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities. There is a question about the different kind of makeup of the students. It says, I'm an older student. Could you say anything about typical age mix of your students? Anna, is this something that you want to speak? I mean, definitely we have many mature students apply to our MA History of Art program. In fact, we also have a graduate diploma as a separate program where we have different students who want to change their career, or they would have done a BA in business, but they want to go to art history. So they might do graduate diploma before they apply to art history. And many of those students will then apply to history of art. So it's kind of a good foundation year. And I would say there are, within a group of 10 to 12 students, there is always one or two or three mature students. So I don't know if you have more statistics, Anna?
No, I think I would agree with everything
Yeah.
you've just said.
So
Really,
we
it's kind of
welcome applications from mature students, and it's particularly great for the kind of seminar discussion, because everyone comes from different experiences and backgrounds and professional skills, so that is encouraged, in fact. Um, Okay, although I studied and grew up in Italy, I became British citizen a month ago. I think when it comes to specific questions like that, I probably encourage you to contact our international team. Anna, is that right?
Yeah.
So I'll try to take some general questions in the interest of time. Is there a scholarship awarded on the basis of academic achievement in your undergraduate study? Anna, are you able to speak about that?
Yes, I would say that scholarships such as the New Voices Scholarship I mentioned, and some of the other ones, kind of in the postgraduate studies scholarship and also the Mountain one, I believe are kind of initially assessed as long as you meet all the other relevant criteria. For example, the Mountain, if you're studying the kind of correct special options, are initially assessed on widening participation criteria. However, if there is kind of a shortlist where kind of things are all, there's not kind of any other differentiation between the applicants, academic merit does kind of then factor in. So yeah, I believe kind of most of those sort of key, the ones that I mentioned at the top, are mostly widening participation basis, with academic merit kind of also considered if necessary. But I don't believe off the top of my head that there are any that are specifically assessed on what kind of academic merit currently. However, another thing I would flag about our scholarships is that they can, the information we have does kind of update over time, so new scholarships can kind of become available. So I would keep an eye on the website for any updates in that regard as well. I hope that kind of answers the question there.
I hope so too. It's very informative. Um, there is a question of what qualifies as a mature age directly after uni. It can be, it could be anything from directly after uni to 70 plus. There is no limit to mature students. And there was a question about written sample if someone is applying after a break. A professional break and being out of university. And I think that as long as it speaks to your intellectual abilities and shows your critical thinking, then that would be fine for a written sample. Um, there is a question is, could the application be edited after the final equal applications deadline? I think the answer is no. Once you submit, it's submitted. Yeah.
Uh, yes, I think in terms of submitting kind of online, yeah, if you want to make any amendments, it's best to email us.
Yeah,
But that would
email
be,
us, but I would consider like once you have put together an application and you've submitted it, I would
yeah,
consider that already a submitted application and it's not
yes,
possible to change the content unless you want to send us another transcript, for example.
yes, absolutely.
Right?
I would
That
agree
is
with you.
is still outstanding. You can say like that, but please consider the deadline as kind of set as possible.
Absolutely, I agree. I'd also say kind of there's no guarantee. So if you submitted on the 12th, for example, and then you realize, oh, something's wrong, um, that you can email us absolutely, but there's no guarantee that it's kind of possible to make that amendment, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah. And Anna, there is another question for admissions. If my application is going to be accepted, after how long can do I have to accept the offer? Do you know when our deposit deadline will be?
Not yet, those, but when you receive the offer, you will in the actual offer letter itself, offer email, it will give you an exact date that you need to kind of respond and accept by paying your deposit. So that's something to be aware of. To accept your place, you will need to pay us a deposit, and you'll be given a deposit deadline. It's usually, I believe, last year it was kind of typically a couple of months before after kind of I believe like if offers are made in sort of February, March. It was kind of April sort of time.
Mhm.
But it will depend, and we don't have an exact date at this time.
I think, yeah, and we will try to make that available on our website as soon as possible. There is also a question, Anna. When you apply for MA Art History, can you also apply for MA Curating?
Okay, so it's not currently possible to apply for two programs individually, kind of two separate programs individually. It's kind of the system is sort of set up for and encourages kind of application for one program that you're kind of most enthusiastic about. I will say when you submit your application, you will there is a tick box. So it says, if I'm not successful in securing an offer for my chosen program, I'd be interested in being considered for other programs. And you can tick that if you would like. If you wanted to specify a program that you want to be considered for, if you weren't successful in your first kind of choice, you can mention that briefly in your personal statement. But generally, kind of the process is designed kind of for one application for one program. Yeah.
And I have one more question for
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Do we have a wait list?
So I believe that there's not a current plan for the MA History of Art to have a wait list at this moment. So it would be a case of you kind of be made an offer or kind of your application would be successful. I believe for this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
There was also a question about someone who's interested in working with Latin America and the colonial context, and whether, whilst we don't have an MA special option specifically in that topic, that is a very good example to show that you could, for example, apply for the Art, Empire, and Oceans MA or early modern Asia MA or another MA of kind of adjacent theoretical, methodological, or period focus interest, and then write your dissertation, the independent project, on your particular interest. So that is definitely possible, and we encourage you to think kind of laterally in the way that you select your special options, but also in how you can develop your skills and write a dissertation. It is an independent project, it's a separate module. And whilst it is most likely that your special option tutor will supervise your dissertation, you can also approach other members of faculty to supervise your dissertation if they have capacity. So you can make a case for it, and there is definitely opportunities to do that. And then maybe one final question, Anna, and then we'll wrap up. And I think a lot of the other questions were quite specific, and I encourage you to get in touch or come to the Q&A in January. But there was a question about someone who has settled status in UK and whether they apply, whether they have UK fees or international fees.
Um, I would say that it's difficult to kind of confirm based on just that information. Typically, when you're being kind of fee assessed, a number of different factors are kind of considered. So settled status would definitely be one kind of aspect of that consideration, but it also be kind of other things such as sort of residency history, that sort of thing. What I would recommend is contacting our international team. So their email was on the screen a moment ago, but it's international@courtauld.ac.uk because they're really the best placed team to discuss your kind of personal circumstances. I would say before we kind of receive your application and all of your documents and details, we can't kind of make any definitive kind of guarantees, but they can definitely talk to you in a bit more detail about your circumstances.
Mm. Great. Thank you so much. So maybe just as a final thing to say is, as Anna pointed out, there are different parts of the application and try to think of it as kind of a portfolio, which best reflects all your skills and professional experiences, academic experiences, as well as your education and your languages, for example. So some information you will want to add to your CV, other information you will want to really highlight in your personal statement, and then make sure that you wisely pick your written sample as well that you submit, and also choose your referees wisely. Make sure that they've agreed to write a reference for you and that they can write a good reference for you. And we really do read all the material very carefully when we consider the application. And just again to point out that there are 21 special options, but some of them, most of them only have 10 to 12 people. So of course, there will be some special options that will be more subscribed or kind of more popular than others, which is why one of the questions was, can you apply for a single special option? Of course, you can list one special option, but there is no guarantee that you will get a place on that special option, which is why try to think widely and think where options overlap. And also, as I've mentioned, there are two group talk modules that are outside of the special option where you engage with at least on critical debates, there are 8 members of faculty who teach that. And on examining exhibitions, there are 8 members of faculty who teach that. And then in your independent project and your dissertation is also done outside of the special option, even though the special option tutor is most likely will be the one that you work on. So I hope we have answered your a large proportion of your questions and given you the information that you needed. And we look forward to hearing from you and hopefully receiving and reading your applications and then working with you next year. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon and goodbye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.